You know, usually when we talk about history's great scientific discoveries, we tend to picture this this really triumphant moment of enlightenment.
Right, like switching on a light in a dark room or something.
Exactly. You finally see the truth, the shadows vanish, and everyone just kind of celebrates this sudden clarity.
Yeah, we definitely prefer that sort of eureka narrative. I mean, it's comforting to think of human progress as this purely joyous occasion, where humanity just takes a collective step forward and feels super grateful for the new perspective.
Right, but then you look closely at the 16th century, and you realize that sometimes that light switch doesn't just illuminate the room. Sometimes it literally blows the roof off the house entirely and leaves you staring into this terrifying void.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we're looking at a scientific awakening that wasn't celebrated at all. It was fiercely, violently resisted. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
We are diving straight into the moment. Humanity's cozy, perfectly ordered universe was just completely shattered by a renegade philosopher named Giordano Bruno. And, we aren't just doing this for a history lesson.
No, not at all.
Bruno's monumental collision with the traditional world is, well, it's essentially the blueprint for our own modern existential crisis.
It really is.
So we're going to explore how he gave us the infinite universe, whether he actually survived the psychological weight of his own idea, and how his desperate search for meaning perfectly mirrors your own anxieties today about technology, progress, and finding purpose in a mechanical world.
And I think to truly grasp the magnitude of what happened, we have to view Bruno not just as this two-dimensional martyr for science,
Right.
just standing nobly against ignorance.
Right, the typical hero narrative.
Exactly. The real history presents a man who was deeply, agonizingly conflicted. I mean, he was the architect of our boundless, infinite modern cosmos, yet he secretly, desperately longed for the warmth and security of the tiny, enclosed medieval world he had just taken a sledgehammer to.
Wow. Okay, so let's start by walking around inside that medieval world before Bruno destroyed it. Because the sheer architecture of the old worldview it's staggering when you really think about it.
It's beautiful in a way.
It is. Imagine the entire universe built like this immense, spectacular cathedral. Earth is right in the center, right? It's fixed, heavy, basically the anchor of reality.
And then surrounding us are these massive, solid, literal crystal spheres.
Yes. Crystal spheres that hold the moon, the sun, and the planets in their perfect orbits. And capping it all off like the vaulted ceiling of this cosmic cathedral is the Empyrean.
Which was the literal physical dwelling place of the divine, the angels, and the blessed.
Right. It was a universe entirely purpose-built for humanity.
And what's fascinating here is the psychological security that system provided. It was a cosmos with a very clear, undeniable plot.
We're playing that.
Right, because thinkers like Aristotle and Thomas Aquinas had essentially mapped out a reality where the physical and the moral were completely intertwined.
So moving upward away from Earth physically meant moving towards spiritual perfection.
Exactly. Nature was practically this divine workshop existing for the sole purpose of producing, testing, and redeeming human beings. You knew exactly where you stood, literally and spiritually. The drama of your life was the central drama of the entire universe.
I mean, every star in the sky was just a lamp hung on the ceiling to give you light.
Precisely.
And then comes Giordano Bruno, with what seems like a simple, almost childlike leap of logic, but it holds the power of, like, an atomic bomb.
It really does.
He looks up at the night sky and realizes that what is true of a candle flame on Earth is true of the sun in the sky. If you move a candle far enough away, it just looks like a star.
Right.
Therefore, if the stars are just distant suns, that solid vault of heaven doesn't actually exist. Space is infinite. It has no edge. It's filled with infinite suns, and around those suns, likely infinite inhabited planets.
And that single logical step completely demolishes the cathedral.
Just wipes it out.
Yeah, because once you accept that the stars are suns, they cannot be fixed to a single celestial sphere, all sitting at the exact same distance from Earth. They must be scattered irregularly, infinitely deep through boundless space.
Oh.
And the psychological devastation of this cannot be overstated. By expanding the universe to infinity, Bruno destroyed the narrative structure of existence.
Because we aren't the center anymore.
Right. As the sources point out, quoting Anatole France actually, our glorious, life-giving sun became nothing more than a random bubble of gas burning in the dark, and our Earth became a mere fleck of mud floating in a terrifyingly vast, endless, freezing desert.
I try to imagine waking up to that realization back then. It's like It's like growing up in a tiny, perfectly organized house where you are the favorite child.
Right, a great analogy.
Every room is designed for you. The temperature's always perfect, every corner. And then one day, the walls just suddenly fall flat.
Just gone.
Yeah. You realize you aren't in a house at all. You're just standing exposed in a wasteland that goes on forever in every direction, and nobody is watching you. I mean, didn't this immediately make human life feel utterly insignificant to the people of his time?
Oh, it induced a profound cosmic vertigo, and it triggered a massive theological crisis.
Wow.
Well, if humanity isn't the sole reason for creation, the central episodes of traditional religions suddenly make no sense. If there are millions of Earths out there with beings perhaps better or worse than us, does the drama of human redemption have to happen over and over again?
Wait, is the divine being sacrificed endlessly across infinite solar systems in the night sky?
Exactly. That's the question. Bruno didn't just move planets around. He forced a complete, terrifying reevaluation of humanity's special status. We were no longer the only children of the cosmos.
So Bruno unleashes this mind-bending, terrifying concept. And the wild thing is, he's incredibly smug about it.
Oh, he was so arrogant.
He gives himself this grand title, right? The Expubitor, the Awakener. He boasts across Europe that he has stripped nature of her robe and finally freed human reason from imaginary childish heavens.
He genuinely thinks he's doing humanity a massive favor by tearing down the walls.
Right, but people who are sleeping soundly usually despise the person who violently shakes them awake.
They absolutely loathe the Awakener. And, Bruno made it worse by being spectacularly lacking in diplomacy.
Yeah, tact was not his strong suit.
Not at all. He had a lusty, passionate soul, a brilliant mind, and zero modesty. He openly mocked the academic and religious institutions of his day,
He just traveled across Europe, right? England, France, Germany.
alienating powerful people everywhere he went because he just couldn't hide his contempt for anyone still living in the cathedral.
Which perfectly sets the stage for a brutal backlash. The sleepers eventually strike back, and it happens in the most intimate way possible.
It's quite a story.
So, in May of 1592, Bruno is in Venice. He had been living with and tutoring a Venetian patrician named Giovanni Mocenigo.
Right, Mocenigo.
Mocenigo originally invited Bruno because he wanted to learn the famous memory techniques and arts of invention that Bruno was known for. But instead of getting a polite tutor, he gets this radical philosopher who completely terrifies him.
Yeah, he gets way more than he bargained for.
So Mocenigo literally locks Bruno in a room of his house and denounces him to the Venetian Inquisition.
And the written document of that denunciation is a remarkable, deeply revealing historical artifact. It captures the sheer panic of a conventional mind encountering infinite ideas.
It really does. The charges Mocenigo levels are this breathless, chaotic jumble of malice. He claims Bruno said Christ was just a charlatan who used magic tricks to fool people.
Among other things.
Yeah, he claims Bruno said monks are asses, that the virgin birth was possible. It's like a laundry list of standard heresies designed to get a man killed.
But hidden right in the middle of this messy jumble is the ultimate universe-shattering crime. Mocenigo writes, he says the world is eternal and that there are an infinity of worlds.
There it is, infinity.
Exactly. Mocenigo's letter might be driven by spite and a limited intellect, but it brilliantly distills the establishment's terror. They didn't just hate Bruno's arrogant attitude.
No, it was bigger than that.
Much bigger. Their entire authority, their moral, political, and spiritual right to rule was fundamentally anchored to that earth-centered, closed universe. The infinite worlds threatened to collapse the entire power structure of the 16th century.
Wow. But I have to push back on Bruno's decision-making here for a second. Why did he even risk going back to Italy in the first place?
That's a great question.
We know he originally fled his Dominican order in Naples 16 years prior for relatively trivial rebellions. Throwing away pictures of saints, telling a novice to read more controversial books.
Right, fairly minor stuff initially.
Yeah, and then he spent over a decade and a half as a hunted man, a refugee, constantly looking over his shoulder. He wrote explicitly that torches and the stake awaited him if he ever returned to a Catholic country.
He knew exactly what would happen. He knew the danger. So why on earth would a genius walk willingly right back into the lion's den?
Well, this is where Bruno becomes a profoundly tragic human figure. The text suggests he returned because beneath all that radical bravado, he deeply craved the old wine of his homeland and his childhood faith.
He was homesick.
He was desperately trying to figure out if his new infinite bottle, this vast, boundless cosmos he discovered, could somehow still hold the comforting spiritual wine he grew up with.
So he wanted to have his infinite universe, but still feel held by the divine. He couldn't fully let go of the warmth.
Exactly. And, human beings typically react to world-shattering paradigm shifts in one of three ways.
Okay, what are they?
First, you have the radical who lightheartedly mocks the past, dances on the ruins of the old world, and embraces the chaos.
That sounds like Bruno's Awakener persona.
Right. Then you have the conservative who completely rejects the new evidence, covers their eyes, and clings to blind faith. And finally, you have the philosopher who takes on the agonizing work of bridging the two, trying to reinterpret the new, terrifying facts in a way that preserves some core underlying meaning.
Exactly. Bruno's tragedy is that he was trying to play all three roles simultaneously.
Oh, man. So he's the radical mocking the sleepers, but deep down, he's the sleeper homesick for the dream.
That's a perfect way to put it.
But a mind like Bruno's can't just live in the void forever. Once he tore down the cathedral, he was desperately forced to build a new theological architecture from the rubble.
He had to try.
Right, because if God isn't up there, sitting on a physical throne in a bounded heaven, mostly because up there is just endless empty space, how does Bruno try to rebuild a sense of the divine?
He does this by formulating what we now recognize as pantheism.
Yeah.
His defining philosophical phrase was natura est Deus in rebus.
Nature is God in things.
Yes. Instead of a separate creator standing outside the universe pulling levers like a cosmic mechanic, God is the life quickening the universe.
So God is in everything.
Everywhere. As the text beautifully describes his idea, the divine lives in us as we live in our own hands. Every sun, every falling raindrop, every human being, every insect is a localized gesture of this infinite divine life.
The divine isn't centralized in an empyrean. It's distributed equally throughout all of infinity.
Exactly.
But, here's where it gets really interesting, though, because that solution creates a brutal new problem.
Oh, it really does.
Because Bruno writes, man is no more than an ant in the presence of the infinite. A star is no more than a man.
Right.
If divine is distributed completely equally, it flattens the hierarchy of existence entirely. If everything is specially divine, then nothing is specially divine. You trade a loving father figure for a beautiful but totally indifferent physical law.
Yeah.
Did he actually find peace in this concept, or did he just trap himself in a colder reality?
Well, the historical record points toward a tragic failure to find personal comfort in his own creation. When he was initially arrested by the Venetian Inquisition, all that radical Awakener bravado completely evaporated.
Really? He didn't stand his ground.
No, he broke down, he fell to his knees, begged for mercy, and offered to completely recant his ideas. He promised to take whatever penance they deemed fit for his soul.
Wow. He essentially begged to be put back in the cathedral.
Yeah.
I'll pretend the stars are just lamps again. I'll pretend the earth doesn't move. Just let me live.
He abandoned the great idea to save his life. But the authorities didn't let him go.
They kept him.
Yeah, the political Venetian Inquisition transferred him to the fiercely doctrinal Roman Inquisition. He was thrown into a dark cell and subjected to relentless interrogation for 8 agonizing years.
8 years. That is horrifying.
And in that isolation, stripped of his pride, his audience, and his freedom, something shifted. The philosopher in him hardened.
He found his resolve.
He did. When he was finally brought before his judges for the last time, he flatly refused to recant. He accepted his fate. We have his legendary final words recorded in a letter by an observer named Schopenhauer. Bruno stood before the men about to kill him and said, "In greater fear, perhaps, do you impose sentence upon me than I do receive it."
You are more afraid of my ideas than I am of your fire. That is chilling.
It remains one of the most powerful moments of defiance in human history. He was burned at the stake in the Campo de' Fiori in Rome in February 1600.
So he really died for the infinite universe.
He did. But we are left with a haunting realization from the sources. He died a brave man, but perhaps still a spiritually homeless one. He never found a way to make the infinite void feel like home.
And when you look at Bruno's dilemma, you realize it's the exact same blueprint for our lives today. That transition to spiritual homelessness brings us right to the present moment.
It really does connect perfectly.
Because Bruno's shattered universe, that is the exact universe you and I woke up in this morning. We are standing on that fleck of mud in infinite space.
Still floating in the void.
Yeah, and we are grappling with the exact same tension between rapid, universe-altering progress and the deep human need for a meaningful plot.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, Think about how we have traded the old mythic idea of a past golden age for the modern vision of science and a limitless future.
Right.
Science has given us incredible, unprecedented power over nature. We have conquered diseases, split the atom, connected the globe. But as we see through the lens of the text on philosophers like Immanuel Kant, science only provides us with what we call hypothetical goods.
Okay, let's unpack the mechanism of that, because the difference between a hypothetical good and a categorical good is everything.
It really is. A hypothetical good is entirely conditional. If you want to cross an ocean quickly, a jet engine is good. If you want to cure an infection, antibiotics are good.
Better tools, longer lives, faster communication.
They are all purely means to an end. But science is completely incapable of giving us a categorical good, an absolute unconditional moral purpose.
It tells us exactly how the physical mechanism of the universe works, down to the quantum level.
Yes, but it remains terrifyingly silent on what we ought to do with that power, or why we are even here to wield it in the first place.
It's the ultimate is versus ought problem. I like to think of science as this exquisitely engineered compass.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Right, it can tell you perfectly how the magnetic fields of the Earth operate. It can help you move efficiently in literally any direction you choose, but you are standing in the middle of a vast wasteland, and the compass cannot tell you which direction you actually should go.
Exactly. It gives you the mechanism, but it completely refuses to give you a destination.
And because the universe no longer provides that destination, because there is no moral geography written into the stars, we have to invent it ourselves.
Which brings us to where the modern philosophy of pragmatism enters the picture.
Pragmatism, right.
And pragmatism isn't just making up your own truth on a whim, like some people think. It is the grueling mechanical realization that since the universe is a blank slate, human action itself becomes the only source of value.
We have to actively construct our own moral architecture through trial, error, and societal consensus.
We don't discover meaning out in the void. We have to manufacture it day by day through our choices.
Which is absolutely exhausting. I mean, we're essentially tasked with doing the labor of gods.
Truly.
In the old cathedral, you just inherited the meaning of your life. The architecture told you who you were. Now, the burden of meaning-making is placed squarely on our own shoulders.
And the moment you stop actively believing in the purpose you've manufactured, the void rushes right back in. The mechanical universe just rolls on, completely indifferent to our moral struggles.
It is the defining fatigue of the modern condition. We have unlimited power, but we are plagued by the anxiety of an indifferent cosmos.
We are all essentially Giordano Bruno, marveling at the infinite expanse, yet shivering in the cold, open air, wondering if we made a mistake by tearing down the walls.
So, what does this all mean for you and me? It means that Giordano Bruno's incredible gift of the infinite universe was also a profound existential burden.
A heavy, heavy burden.
By proving the universe was boundless, he tore down the walls of our cosmic nursery. He forced humanity to grow up, step out of the center of the story, and face reality. And we've been trying to figure out how to build a fire in that endless desert ever since.
Which leaves us with a final, fascinating question to consider as we look to the future.
What's that?
Well, if the burden of pragmatism, this endless, exhausting task of constantly manufacturing our own meaning in an indifferent universe, is so heavy, what happens when we inevitably turn to our technology to solve that problem for us?
Oh, wow.
As we race to build artificial superintelligences, entities that we hope will be wiser and more capable than we are we simply trying to construct a new digital Empyrean?
Wait, are we building a new all-knowing ceiling to place back over our heads?
Exactly. Hoping a machine will finally give us a categorical good so we can stop shivering in the infinite and be told what our purpose is once again.
Are we using our infinite power just to build a brand new cathedral to hide in? That is a wild thought to leave on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the architecture around you, keep looking out into the infinite, and we will see you next time.